First story is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my father he and his family get nothing from me? I, 19 female, am in college. 4 years ago, my parents divorced after my father decided he was done being responsible and left. He came back after more than a year and he married someone else and was helping raise her kids. He brought our mom to court for shared custody. He was granted less than 50% because he was out of our lives for a while. I wanted to stay with my mom, but the judge said he would order an evaluation to be done if we disagreed with his decision. I didn't want to cost my mom more, so I went along with it. But once I turned 18, I was done, and I didn't go back. I have nothing to do with my father. He left us, and then expected me to be his nanny. His wife tried to be nice to us, but she wasn't part of the equation in my eyes. My father had crap on my mom, left her with 3 kids and debt he got into, broke her heart, and he abandoned his kids. So I was there for my mom's sake, so she wasn't paying a crap ton for court. I have been helping my mom out ever since I graduated high school. Before really, but more now. I help with groceries and sometimes I go over to cook and stuff, so my brother, 16, can get his tutoring and help with homework. He has dyslexia and dyscalculia. And so my sister, 14, can get the therapy and stuff she needs while my mom works. My father found out I was helping and was annoyed I don't do the same at his house. I told him I owe him nothing and they get nothing from me. He claims I'm punishing his wife and her kids for his mistakes. I don't know why I honestly even gave this any thought. But is it a jerk thing that I really don't care to help out his wife or her kids? They're almost strangers to me. We're not family. Whereas my mom and my siblings are. I don't know. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. You are right. You don't owe them anything. Besides, what you do with your time is none of his business. This is also true. It's not. He lost the right to have anything to do with my business when he abandoned us. Once you made a decision, going no contact can be really liberating. Just something to keep in mind. You don't need more crap from him in your life. Sounds like you got a lot on your plate already. True, I do have a lot on my plate. Not the a-hole. Don't let him guilt you. You owe him nothing. He claims I'm punishing his wife and her kids for his mistakes. He just needs to step up and take care of his own responsibilities instead of shirking them off on someone else, like he did when he left your mother. It's such a leap of logic. They are complete strangers to OP. By his logic, I'm punishing his wife and kids by not helping out. Not the a-hole. I am guessing he doesn't provide child support. You are being an amazing human. I am sure your mom is proud of you. I'm going to guess no. My mom would never tell me because she didn't want to badmouth him. But she struggled a lot. She had to take on half of his debt because he racked it up as marital debt, and she was feeding 3 kids, paying bills, had a cost of divorce, and had to sell our family home and move. None of it was cheap, and she's still paying. He's meant to provide child support, but either he does and it's barely anything, or he gets away with not paying. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for not reaching out when my dad's mistress had a miscarriage? I wanted to have the courage to ask people if I am a jerk. When I was 12, male, I am now 16, I found out my dad was cheating with a woman who knew my dad had a wife and children. Since then, I have resented my dad and my stepmom. I rarely speak to them, only when my mom wants me to have a relationship with my dad and talk to him, and obviously the court custody. So recently, I heard my stepmom had a miscarriage, and to be honest, I don't care. I believe it's karma, but I keep it to myself. My stepmom is wondering why I am not reaching out, and so is my dad. When I went to my dad's house because of the court ruling, my dad was being mad why I have not consoled his wife and crap. I told him that is not my job. My dad was still in my face and was yelling at me and told me to talk more. I warned him and said, don't get mad at my true opinion, and you have been warned. My dad got mad at me, and to just say it and he won't care what I have to say. I asked him, are you sure? And he said yes. So I told him how I believe it was karma for helping you cheat on my mom, knowing you had a wife and kids. My dad then got very mad and told me to go to my stepmom and console her, but instead, I packed my crap and went out. My dad has been constantly calling me and texting me. I have not responded, but I am still wondering if I was too harsh. But then again, he did ask for my true opinion. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. A good example to never ask a person their true opinion if you don't want to hear it. Yep, OP is totally in the right here. He warned the father. The father then lied through his teeth and shows this. Massive not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. You're old enough to stay with mom only. Do it. You are not responsible for her at all. Fact that your dad is blaming you after he asked your thoughts several times makes him a massive a-hole. He's lucky you didn't listen and tell her to her face that it's karma. I know, right? OP is a better person than I. I think teenage me would have gone up to the stepmom and told her. Not the a-hole. Who the hell would force a 16-year-old boy to console his stepmom about a miscarriage? Do me a favor. Your dad is out of his tiny mind, and his mistress, while understandably grieving her loss, is using that to manipulate your father. I'd keep my distance. They both sound like self-involved narcissists. The next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my ex-wife to F off and not allowing her to talk to our kids? Please read before making a decision. I have 5 kids with my now ex-wife, 7 female, 5 female, 2 male twins, and a 7-month-old baby boy. When my ex was pregnant with a baby, she decided that she didn't want to be involved with me or the kids anymore, so she divorced me and signed all her rights away. The only reason that I know she is still alive is the child support checks that I get. My kids are obviously still upset over their mom just getting up and leaving, without even giving them a heartfelt goodbye. My oldest has expressed being cross towards me regarding the situation, since she's the only one that truly understands that her mom probably won't come back. She feels abandoned and has come to me crying because she believes that her mom doesn't love her anymore. My other daughter still believes that her mom's going to come back, and it really hurts to hear her ask when she'll come back. My other kids obviously don't understand where their mom has gone. All I can truly get from them is tears and asking where their mom has gone. Just to be clear, I don't badmouth their mother or say bad things in general about her to them. Yesterday, my ex called. I only picked up because I didn't recognize the number. She said hello and asked if she could speak to the kids. I said no, mostly because I didn't know how they would react. She said that she missed them terribly and because of COVID, couldn't see them, and she really wanted to hear their voices. I said that I wasn't comfortable with that. I told her that I would talk to my oldest 2 later on and ask if they wanted to speak to her, but for now I wouldn't allow it. She said that she was still their mom and that she had a right to speak to them. I said that she lost any right to them when she signed those rights away. At this point, my wife raised her voice and said that I was keeping her away from the people she loved most. I said that I didn't care about her feelings, that she abandoned the kids, and to F off like she did months ago before hanging up. My kids weren't in earshot, just to be clear. I'm not proud of losing my temper because I'm not that kind of guy. But I was at my wit's end and couldn't take it anymore. I still have my mother-in-law as one of my contacts because I don't have anybody else to care for the kids if something happens to me. All night, she's been blowing up on my phone, saying that my ex-wife is still a mother and has a right to talk to her kids. I don't know. I'm tired. Honest opinions? Now for the top comments. She signed her rights away. It's your absolute duty to keep your kids safe mentally, physically, and emotionally. You decide if it's okay for her to see or speak to them. If you don't feel it's good for them right now, then your answer is final. You absolutely need to get the kids into therapy though, and should probably talk to someone yourself. This is a hell of a lot to deal with. While right now might be the wrong time for them to speak to her, at some point, it might be the best thing for them. Not the a-hole. Completely agree. The children are the most important people in this scenario. If the 2 oldest do want to talk to their mom, please consider it being on speakerphone with you in the room as a condition of the first few conversations. Info. Did something happen to your wife that made her walk away? Like, do you think it is these or something that long-term she could come back from? Not the a-hole. Your wife can't come and go as she pleases. That is horrendously unfair to your kids who need and deserve consistency, and a lot more than she is giving. Yeah, yelling is not ideal, but you are human and dealing with a lot, so you're not an a-hole for that. Is there anyone who can help you with the kids besides your ex-mother-in-law? Also, the kids and you definitely need therapy. They've been through something traumatic. She was always a very wild person. She could never handle long-term commitment, and while she wanted kids, didn't spend time with them because I was the stay-at-home parent. She just didn't like the responsibilities. Info. Could it be postpartum depression? It seems strange that on child number 5, she just gets up and leaves. I don't believe so. I have read up on the symptoms because that thought has crossed my mind before, and she doesn't match up on anything. Plus, she's up and left before, back when we were dating and didn't have children. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for buying my son, 16 male, a PS5 and refusing to buy my stepdaughter, 17 female, a MacBook? So, my 47 male, wife, 46 female, and I been married for 2 years and dated for 3 years before that. Both of our kids live with us. During this pandemic and lockdown, both our kids starting to do bad in school and wasting their time on PS4 for my son and stepdaughter with Netflix/FaceTime with their friends. I love my stepdaughter like my son, and I try to be close to her without pushing myself, and I know it will take a lot of time, especially with her age. My wife told me before we lived together that I am kinda not allowed to act like her father, because the subject is sensitive. I understood the situation, and if she didn't do anything beyond her limits, like hurting my son, escape at night, or anything illegal, I will let her mom act. A month ago, I had a big bonus from work. I put some of the money in our shared bank account, and the rest, I can do whatever I want. Since I noticed the kids are doing badly in school, and not once saw them reading a book, I thought I can change that by giving them rewards for their achievements. So, I talked with both of them on the dinner table and asked them what they want to have, no matter how expensive it is. My son wanted a PS5, and my stepdaughter wanted a new MacBook since it's more beautiful, pinky and girly for her. I agreed. I told them if they do well on their exam for the next month and read the 6 chapters of the book that I gave them, same book, I will buy them their requested gifts. The rules were clear. You do good, you get the gifts. You do bad, you don't get anything. Honestly, I had low hopes on my son since I know he hates reading and studying. Anyways, the deadline came, and surprisingly, my son got 93% on his exam. He was studying 6 to 7 hours per day, and my daughter got 64%, mainly because I didn't see her study at all. And when I asked them to tell me about the book, my son did great. My stepdaughter read only 12 pages and tried to Google about the book. Not only did she not study nor read the book, she tried to cheat and lie to me. I didn't buy her the Mac and bought my son the PS5. My stepdaughter yelled, argued, and even cussed and threw a tantrum. I told her she should deal with consequences. I gave her another chance until Christmas since she has another exam, and to read the book again. So that night, I had a fight with my wife. She thinks that I'm favoring my son and that I don't care about her daughter, which is not true since both had the same deal. She tried to take money from our joint bank account. I refused and told my wife she can buy her whatever she wants with her own money, or she can stop spoiling her so she could do better. It's been 2 days we are barely talking, and she thinks I have to apologize to both of them and buy my stepdaughter the MacBook. I don't think it's fair since my son had to work hard and she didn't. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Regardless of your relationship with them, you set your guidelines. Your son met them, your stepdaughter didn't. He played the game and won the prize. That's the end of it, as far as I'm concerned. So not the a-hole. Stand your ground on this one, man, or else they'll walk all over you for the rest of their lives. He got an A, she got a D. Those are nowhere near equivalent. Don't buy her the Mac. I repeat, don't buy her the Mac. And if your wife goes behind your back, freaking return it. You would only be the a-hole if you rewarded your stepdaughter for nothing when your son did what he agreed to. That's what parenting is. And that was a great deal for them which both could have taken advantage of if they put in the work. You are not the a-hole, but your stepdaughter and wife are both acting incredibly entitled. 90% passing sure makes a lot more sense to reward than 64% failing and subsequent cheating. Actions have consequences, and the fact your daughter and wife don't see that, and the accessing of the account especially, is a massive red flag. If she wants to reward her daughter for no reason, that's on her, but she's a fool to do so, and should do it from her own pocket. Not the a-hole. Edit. You don't owe anyone an apology. By the way, they owe you one. And she doesn't even have consequences. OP is giving her another chance. I can't believe his wife essentially tried to steal from OP to reward her daughter for having a tantrum. This 17-year-old has no hope of functioning in the real world at this rate. Not the a-hole. The rules were clear. Your son followed them and your stepdaughter did not. She agreed to the rules and didn't follow through, so she doesn't get the reward. If she wanted a MacBook, she should have studied. Not the a-hole. How would your son feel knowing he worked hard and his sister didn't, and they got the same reward? Relationship advice. Update 2. My female 33 fiancé male 34 found out I pay for my parents' health insurance and said they are financially abusing me. Original post. My fiancé male 34 and I, female 33, have been dating for 3 years and living together for 1. We've been loosely saving to buy a house, and about 2 weeks ago, we decided to sit through our finances and try to draw an actual plan to see if we could save money more consistently and whatnot. As expected, we had a few disagreements on what expenses we should cut, but nothing too big, until he found out I pay for my parents' healthcare insurance, and we have been fighting about it nonstop since then. His main point is that my parents don't need it since our country has universal healthcare, and if they wanted insurance, they could pay it themselves. Although this is true, the public healthcare system is known for being overcrowded, and it can take months until you see a doctor. My dad has diabetes and a heart condition, and I'm afraid he wouldn't get the help he needs fast enough. It's also true they could pay for it, but not without some sacrifice. They're very middle class, and they wouldn't probably anyway because my dad is the stoic type. His refusal to get insurance was the reason me and my brother decided to pay for it ourselves. Fiancé also argues that's unfair to spend so much money on them when we're trying to save everything we can for the house and is cutting all of his extra expenses. But the fact is that, even with insurance, I'm still saving more than him because I earn more. He thinks if I redirect this money to our savings, we could buy our house faster and with less sacrifice, which means he could keep some of the extra money he's putting on the house. I'd rather wait longer if I have to, if it means I can assure better care for my parents if they need it. Plus, that way I'd be paying for more than 2/3 of the house, and I already pay for most of our rent. He thinks I'm being selfish. I think he's being selfish. But what we've been arguing mostly about is he says my parents are taking advantage of me, that they're abusive and controlling of my money, and that I can't start a new family if I don't let go of them and cut the cord. I admit I'm close to my parents. I call them every couple of days, and I used to see them regularly before the pandemic, which fiancé says it proves I'm emotionally dependent on them. But they hardly ask me for money, and I don't pay for anything else except an occasional dinner. He's been sending me articles about helicopter parents and even brought up the time I lived with them as an adult for 2 years. They took me in when I had a major setback at 25 years old and lost my job. When I tell him I don't see that way, he keeps bringing up the fog, which apparently is the inability of abused people to see the acts of the abusers and such. My brother is on my side, but his friends says he's right. I was sure about this, but I don't know anymore. I admit he has some points. Is the fact that my parents don't need the money but I still feel like they do a sign of abuse? He's been also pointing some situations where I reached to them for advice or help as proof that I'm not grown up enough, and even suggested I go non-contact for a while. Not forever. I won't, but I'm starting to feel less inclined to talk to my parents after our arguments. Has anyone been in a situation like this? What did you do? Now for the top advice before reading the first update. I lived with them as an adult for 2 years. They took me in when I had a major setback at 25 years old and lost my job. Your parents had your back when you were in your toughest spot at age 25. That says everything about how much they should mean to you. Your fiancé is talking crazy talk telling you to go no contact with your parents. Plus, that way I'd be paying for more than 2/3 of the house and I already pay for most of our rent. The real issue is your fiancé feels less of an adult with your contributing more financially. I can't start a new family if I don't let go of them and cut the cord. Are you two planning to have children? Is your lifetime goal to have children? Because if you are blindsided by what your fiancé thinks about money, there may be other issues you are overlooking. If having children is your lifetime goal, I advise freezing your eggs to give you more options. The real issue is your fiancé feels less of an adult with your contributing more financially. Yet, he is prepared to allow her to contribute even more financially so that he doesn't have to contribute as much. Girl, this man wants all your money to go towards the savings. You already pay for everything. He wants all the money in the savings. Do not freaking do that. That's a huge setup. You make more than him. He wants the extra money in the joint account. You spend too much money. Do you not see what he's doing? Yikes. You have to watch your back with your husband, since you make more than him. Do you guys have a prenup? We're not married yet. We haven't discussed prenups or anything, but the house is going to be in both of our names. He didn't strike me as a gold digger. He's quite moderate in his spending. But they never do at first, do they? I'll keep that in mind and maybe talk about a prenup after we solve this issue. Thanks. Info. How much does healthcare insurance cost relative to your net income? Info. What is the difference in salary between you two? It does not seem like you're being financially abused. It seems like you recognize that family members help each other. When you lost your job, your parents helped you out. Now it's your turn to help them out. This is not about money for extravagances. This is about health. You should not get married or buy a house together until you are on the same page regarding your finances. I make a bit less than 3 times what he makes, and the insurance costs about 7% of my free income. I don't know how to say it. It's what I get after taxes. It means we may have to save for a bit more time, maybe a year more, if neither of us get any raise. And I would also be fine if he says he doesn't want to put all he can and save some for something he thinks is important. But his issue seems to be more about where the money is going than how much is it. I'm rethinking that after all these comments about him being interested on the money though. Now for the first update. We had agreed on a truce so we could spend holidays in peace, since we were isolated and it was going to just be him and me. Christmas was relatively okay, but the next day my mom sent us some leftovers from their dinner, which turned out to be a full meal that she clearly cooked for us. Fiancé got pissed about it. We argued once again about my parents being controlling. He said they couldn't leave us alone to even have a holiday in peace, and how I wasn't grown up enough to make myself a dinner and my mom had to send food. I'm not a great cook, but I get by and I did make us dinner the night before. I never depended on my mom to feed us. But he brought up other occasions where my mom had sent us food, and that's not something you do for adult children. He also said he can't trust me with the money after what he found out and insinuated he would be the one in charge of our finances once we got married. But he backed off when he saw how mad I got. Long story short, we argued for a couple more days about it, and I ended up leaving the apartment. We didn't officially break up, but it's been several weeks and it looks permanent. He reached out a couple of times to see if I had come to my senses, but every attempt at a talk turned into another argument, and I'm just tired. I rented another place and haven't told anyone about what happened yet, but apparently he did, because I got some nasty messages from a few of his friends. So I guess he already made up his mind. Most of my things are still at the apartment, I hope, so I still have to figure that out. I'm just living day by day. It's hard wrapping my mind around the whole situation because it doesn't make sense to me. It does not seem like a good enough reason to break up a 3-year relationship, but it is what it is. Thanks to everyone who helped me on my original post. I guess you all saw this coming. Edit. Some people came up with the fair point that this is only my POV, which is true, but I don't have a neutral third party to ask about it, because the only people I think know what's happening are my brother and my fiancé's friends. So, not really unbiased. But there's an important thing that I left out because I don't want to think is the reason for all of this, but maybe it is. My parents are not my bio parents. My mom is my bio mom's sister, who looked out for us when things got bad at home, until she took my brother and I in when I was a teenager. Bio mom is an addict, in and out of the picture, but mostly out for the past 10 years. I lent her money about 5 years ago, and I know I'm not ever seeing that money back. I know my brother did the same on a couple of occasions. Does that change everything? Most people are saying it's a normal thing for parents to do, but maybe it's not normal if they are not your real parents? Maybe that's what bothers my fiancé. I never asked because I'm afraid of the answer. Also, he knew about the money I gave my bio mom, so he might see it as a pattern of me freely giving money to my family? Just to be clear, he never said any of it, although I think that's what he meant when he said I can't be trusted with money. But I got so mad didn't delve into the subject. I'm very aware that because of my background, I'm prone to be in abusive relationships. I'm just trying to figure out if it's my family or my significant other. I'm also aware I need to go back to therapy. I stopped during COVID. That was a mistake. Now for some advice before reading the final update. He reached out a couple of times to see if I had come to my senses. Answer should be, yes, we're done. Yep, up along with being a good girl. This is a typical abuser language. You make 2/3 of the income, make most of the bills, and he can't trust you with money? The only person here who is being financially abusive or controlling is him. He's trying to cut you off from normal and healthy relationships in an effort to control you. He sure as hell is not entitled to tell you what to spend your money on when you already pay more than half the bills. If he comes back, kick his behind to the curb. You do not need that kind of abusive, controlling person in your life. There is nothing wrong with a parent sending their child food either. My mom used to send me home with things she cooked for me, and she even made food for my brother and his wife. Frozen casserole so they had a break once in a while. She didn't dictate how or when we should eat it. I bet it's pissed you were paying most of the bills. For Pete's sake. Now for the final update. So last time people were very nice, reaching out and opening my eyes to the situation, and they brought up a lot of things I wasn't thinking about. So I thought you deserve some closure, even if it's not a very positive one. I tried to solve the old apartment issue first, because as some people guessed, I was still paying for it, mostly to avoid a conversation. I texted him asking for a good time to go over and pick up my stuff and talk about financial agreements. He called me immediately and asked if I was breaking up with him. Like, you did it already? So we started arguing over the phone, until he suggested I come over so we could settle things properly. So I went by myself. Such a good idea. Surprising nobody. Talking in person didn't change anything, and we kept fighting just the same. Except he was becoming more and more aggressive because I was standing my ground in us breaking up. He said some pretty harsh and offensive things, which he never did before. And it hurt, but only confirmed my decision. Until he said that he talked to my brother about us, and that totally set me off. He said my brother agreed with him that my parents were overbearing and even agreed to back off for a while to let me grow up. I guess he thought that having my brother on his side would convince me he was right. It was such an obvious lie, but I was suddenly filled with utter terror that my brother shared his opinion about me, or would want to get away from me, or I don't know. I knew it wasn't true, but at the same time, the mere idea of a world where this would happen completely shattered me. I don't know. Anyway, I started to hyperventilating while he was talking, and since I was unable to respond, he just went on and on about how things were going to work from now on. It was things I don't want to repeat. At some point, I just dissociated, like I used to when I was a kid and the abuse got really bad, and can't remember almost anything after that. All I remember was pressing the phone on my face really hard. Apparently, I called sister-in-law at her work and didn't say anything, so she sent my brother to check on me, and he took me to the hospital. I'm getting better now, but I'm having a lot of PTSD episodes. Mostly, I'm having a hard time accepting how he could be so manipulative, and I never knew. My brother and sister-in-law think he set me off on purpose, as he knew my past and all my triggers. I don't want that to be true. But I have a flash of memory where I'm crawling away from him because I couldn't speak, and he just sort of laughed and kept talking. I know memories from dissociative episodes can't be trusted though. I finally went to the older apartment over the weekend again with my brother and his friends and took everything that's mine. My ex was nowhere to be seen, and it looked like he hasn't been over in a while. This week I'll talk to the landlord about the rent, and my brother is helping me deal with our joint account. We don't have anything else connecting us, so I think that's it. I've been on medication, which I hate, but I like to think I've overcome worse scenarios. I guess at the end, my ex kind of had a point about me being emotionally dependent on my family. He just missed the target. Thanks to everyone who gave advice and tried to help. I won't be updating this anymore. Now for closing comments. I'm so sorry he treated you like that. Give your sister-in-law and brother and especially your parents a hug as soon as it's safe. You should feel proud you stood up so well. Stood up for yourself and for your family. Your ex had no point about you being dependent. He was just trying to bring you down and isolate you. Having family to lean on during a difficult time like this is a completely natural thing to do. None of those things he said had any basis in reality. I'm very sorry this happened to you, but you're already moving on and doing a great job. You are stronger than you think. Good luck. I read all of your posts, and I'm so glad you have such a strong and supportive family structure. I'm also glad you didn't let that little turd ruin your relationship with your amazing supportive family. I hope things get better for you from here. Thank you so much. I hope so too. My brother and sister-in-law think he set me off on purpose, as he knew my past and all my triggers. And he was laughing at one point? He's a sociopath. File a restraining order now. Well, I can't be sure about that. I don't have a clear memory about it. My first thought is that it was a fight that got out of hand. He hasn't contacted me ever since. Now for the last story. Father-in-law is living with us. It's driving me crazy and slowly destroying my family life and my mental health. Bit of background. Me, female 30, live with my long-term partner, male 30, and our little boy. My partner's parents moved back from abroad last year, and they were staying with my partner's brother, sorting out where they were going to live. And then in October last year, they had a huge fight and decided that they were going to separate. My partner's brother chucked his dad out and allowed his mom to stay, and we were not given any choice but to take his dad in. I have never really got on with his dad, and I didn't want his dad to stay with us as I knew that things would end up how they are now. His dad has savings and a small income, so could afford to rent a small place somewhere, but my partner would not let his dad do this. I was so overruled when I said that I didn't want him to stay. My partner said that as soon as his dad gets a job, he can find somewhere to live. But he is being unrealistic in the jobs he wants to get. His dad has now been with us for 4 months, and there has been mounting problems ever since. His dad is very controlling. He has tried to take over all the day-to-day running of the house, which I have kicked back at, as it is not his house. I'm not against him helping out, but not to take full control. His dad also likes to stay up for the majority of the night, so sleeps until at least midday. Luckily, my son is still able to go to nursery during the week, but we have to try, I don't bother anymore, to keep him quiet at the weekend so my partner's dad can sleep. He undermines us constantly with our little one. For example, we will ask our little one to do something, or he will be in the process of doing something, and my partner's dad will distract him or try to get him to do something else. He will tell our son not to listen to mommy and daddy. He will also get our son to break the rules, such as no throwing balls in the house, no sliding down the stairs, and other things like that. He has also got a thing about our son being underweight. Our son is not underweight. He is a healthy, very active petite kid who eats loads. However, he is trying to take on a role of getting our son to eat. I am furious, and I've discussed this with my partner, and he doesn't see it as a problem. But I am so annoyed, as it is not his father's place to do anything. So ultimately, I am frustrated, angry, feel like I'm being judged constantly in my parenting skills by his father. My mental health is suffering. My relationship with my partner and my child is suffering. I feel like I can't be the mom I want to be, as I constantly feel anxious and on edge. I feel uncomfortable in my own home. I don't feel like I can relax. I have spoken to my partner a few times now about it, and he just tries to blow me off most of the time, and that he doesn't understand where I'm coming from. That a lot of it is just in my head. That his dad is trying to find a job, etc., etc. It came to a head last night where we had another massive argument about it. I don't think I can even be in the same room as his dad anymore, as I don't think I can control myself, as I just want to tell him to get out of my house. It has got to the point where if I never see my partner's father ever again, it wouldn't bother me. So where do I go from here? I have thought about leaving, but I don't want to leave my child or uproot my child from a normally fun and loving home. Now for the top advice before reading the little update. Sit down with Hubs with father around. Tell Hubs you can't live this way. If you have family you can stay with, take the baby and go relax for a bit. Get a hotel if you need to. Let Hubs know you will be back when father-in-law leaves. Father-in-law doesn't plan to leave, and I think you have a sense about that too. The fact that you weren't even asked and shut down several times about him to leave isn't okay. Also, this isn't a loving, fun home. Baby has a mother whose mental health is suffering. Baby has a grandfather who undermines mom at every turn. The fact that you weren't even asked and shut down several times about him to leave isn't okay. Yeah, that would be such a major deal breaker for me. Her wishes were totally ignored in a marriage. Sounds like the husband is an a-hole that doesn't care about her opinion. You don't have to go through this. You are a second-class citizen in your own home, like a child with no say. On the top of that, your authority as a parent is being demolished, which is very bad for the kid. And your role as an equal in the house is gone. For all that, I tell your husband that you can't take it anymore, and that if by Friday morning father-in-law is not out, then you and the kid will be out. No need to make a big scene. Just as calmly as you can inform him of your decision. Whatever he says, you just say, yes, yes, but if he's not gone by Friday morning, we are leaving, and try to kill the conversation. Why? Because your husband doesn't listen to words anymore, and therefore you should start talking him through actions. So, if Friday morning you wake up and father-in-law is still there, You don't argue. You don't get into any debate. You don't make a scene. Pack a bag and go. You have no other option. Living like this is hell. He's making you do this, basically. This will not change until you leave. You can't give an ultimatum. You can't even have a conversation. You need to leave. It is possible that your partner, odd word in a relationship where your mate treats you like the maid, will come to his senses until you have gone. He will never make the right choice about his father if you don't. Update. Just wanted to thank you all for the replies. My current plan of action is to get some legal advice regarding custody of my child, and also about our house as we have joint ownership, but we are not married. Once I know where I stand when it comes to this, I will sit down with my partner and discuss everything covered in this and how it has and is affecting me and our son. Then give him an ultimatum that his father needs to move out in 30 days, or me and our son will be moving out and not returning until his father is gone. My mom lives locally and has said that we can stay for a month or two while we find somewhere more permanent if required. Also, that some sort of couples counseling will be on the cards too. Thanks everyone. Am I the a-hole for not letting my fiancé's friend come to the wedding? My fiancé and I were planning our wedding, and he passed over his guest list, and a name stuck out to me. It was my middle school and high school bully. He threw spitballs at me and put a rotting food in my desk, so all the other kids would think it was me. He also had a shellfish allergy, and could be around shellfish but not eat it. So he knew I heated up shellfish in the microwave, and would stand in front of me not letting me get to the microwave telling me I was making him sick, and then get all his friends to harass me. Even when I wasn't bringing shellfish, he would tell me I had a fishy smell to me, and even once called it a dirty Chinese smell. He also made a slanted eyes racist joke in front of me regularly. I told my fiancé this and made it clear there's no way I'm letting this guy come, and he defended him basically saying everyone was an a-hole in high school and we were adults now, so I should forgive and forget. His friend was apparently a family friend's son, so if he wasn't coming, neither were they. He then, without telling me, brought his guy to meet me one day, and he apologized, claiming he didn't remember anything, but apologized for anything he did to me. I told him to buzz off and to get off my lawn. My fiancé is furious with me for being rude to his friend, and we had a screaming fight about it where he said he wasn't taking his friend off the list, and I told him he can get married to him instead. Now for the top comments. Info. Why are you getting married to this guy? I'm having a hard time remembering. Why instead of not allowing the friend to attend a wedding, you don't attend yourself? Maybe your fiancé can get married to your friend. The I don't remember part got me. Invite him, then serve shellfish. Yeah, then Obi can not remember he has a shellfish allergy. Why is this guy so important to your fiancé? Please ask your fiancé this. He is the son of a family friend who babysat him sometimes as a child. That's the reason. He really wants his old babysitter and family friend to be there, and she will only come if they invite her whole family. I don't want her there either, because the principal talked to her often about her son's activities and she never did anything about it. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my wife it would be controlling and inappropriate for her to try and change how my family does Christmas? My wife and I rotate who we spend Christmas with, so 1 year her family and 1 year mine. I don't love doing it with her family. And she isn't a big fan of my mother. Please don't tell us to do it as a nuclear family. We both hate that idea. Our families are pretty different. Her family's much more about the kids. Even the dinner is tailored more to what kids like. Bland in my opinion, but I would never say that. The kids each get 1,000 gifts and spend Christmas running around my mother-in-law's house, making a huge ruckus. Christmas with my family is amazing food, though we usually have to pack our toddler her own meal. A more relaxed atmosphere, and my mom doesn't get any of her grandkids gifts. I don't know her exact reasoning. She says that only the nuclear families should buy gifts, though she does get me and my 2 sisters something, but gives it to us about a week in advance. My kids don't know that she does that. My mom encourages the kids to play in another room so the adults can talk, but me and my wife put our foot down because these kids are just too young. To be clear, we exchanged gifts at home before going, but my wife just finds it really weird that no one in the family buys for other people's kids. It has nothing to do with my mom being frugal or anti-materialism. My mom and stepdad go all out for each other. Anyway, it is our year to do Christmas with my side, and my wife came to me and proposed suggesting to the family that we only buy for kids and make Christmas more kid-friendly.
I told her she really has no right to tell my mom how to spend her money, and that would not go over well with my very child-free sister. Their sister has kids as well. She said she feels that Christmas is supposed to be this magical time for the kids, and my mom and stepdad and child-free sister and brother-in-law have their anniversaries, birthdays, and Valentines to spoil each other. She said she just really hates how much Christmas is about the adults in my family, and it makes her sad. I said her points are totally valid, but it would be controlling and inappropriate to try and change how my family has always done things, and she would definitely offend my mom. She said I'm putting my mom's feelings ahead of hers and she just wants to bring it up, and she doesn't like that I used the word controlling. I am definitely a bigger fan of your wife's idea of how Christmas should be spent than your family's, but house traditions are house traditions. It just sounds boring as hell for those kids, and they'll always be comparing the fun side of the family to the boring old side, but they aren't being mistreated or anything. Not an a-hole for doing things different, though I'm not inclined to call your wife an a-hole for making the suggestion. If she made it a demand, then she'd be an a-hole. Agree, it's a no a-hole situation. The wife is a member of the family now and has the right to offer ideas and suggestions. Opie, as an original member of that family, can and should communicate with his wife about whether her suggestions are a good fit for his side. Nobody did anything wrong here. Soft, everyone sucks here, except your wife. Not centering Christmas 100% around the children is one thing, but your family sounds like it doesn't include the children at all. Send them to another room? No presents? And they don't even get a single special holiday meal. How hard is it to make a mac and cheese dish? Put an orange, some chocolate, and a book in a stocking, and set up a game, arts, and crafts activity or a movie for the kids. Honestly, if I was your wife, I wouldn't bother going to your family's Christmas. Your wife and child are a part of your family too, and if they aren't included in the celebration, then Christmas and family don't sound like they go together in your family. Your family does things a certain way. Your wife doesn't like it and suggested a change, which is reasonable. She's part of the family too. You aren't an a-hole for telling her it won't go over well. And your family doesn't have to change, but making her feel bad about a reasonable request is an a-hole move. I think now you have children, there is nothing wrong with suggesting some minor changes to Christmas. Traditions change as families change. I think there will come a point where one of the children tells grandma how boring her Christmas is, and that will not be fun. Everyone sucks here. She has been told that she is boring. I was pretty mortified, but she didn't seem to care. We had a talk with my daughter about how it is okay to think those things, but sometimes saying something hurts people's feelings. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for going to my parents' house and leaving my fiancé at home after she said she wanted to bring her own food to Thanksgiving? Me and my fiancé, both 20s, have been together for 3 years and had a long-distance relationship. This is supposedly her first Thanksgiving with my family. My mom invited us to attend Thanksgiving dinner. And when I told my fiancé about the invitation, she asked about what was prepared for dinner. And I said the traditional dishes every home prepares. And she made a face and said she'll accept the invitation and go, but will bring her own cooked food with her. I was shocked to ask why, because as far as I know, she's not allergic nor vegan, and she hasn't even tried my mom's cooking. She said that it's just her choice. And wanted to eat something else to add new flavor for Thanksgiving, since she was always forced to eat the same old traditional meals every year by her family. I was mad. I told her it'd be disrespectful of her as a first-time guest at our family's Thanksgiving, but she said it was better than telling my mom to cook other dishes specifically for her. I told her no, she cannot bring food with her, and if she insists, then she needs to stay home but not come with me, because I'm not about to let her fed my mom's cooking. She got all dramatic, almost crying, saying I was being controlling and that I should just let her come and bring her own food, instead of overreacting like that. I stood my ground and she kept saying she wanted to bring food, and that she wasn't willing to go hungry to please my mom. I had it at this point, and got ready to go over to my parents who live hours away. I got in the car with my stuff and left her behind crying, and then started calling me saying I should not have went and left her alone at home, and that I was wrong for making this my hill to die on, and causing her to miss my mom's invite. I'm at my parents' house right now. I made up some excuse as to why my fiancé didn't come, but I'm still bothered by what happened, especially when she keeps guilting me for leaving her behind, calling me selfish jerk, and whatnot. Edited to add, oh yeah, she was actually planning on bringing an entire cooked meal. So I wasn't just talking about some side dishes to share with the family. that would have been a different story. It would have been perfectly acceptable, gracious even, for her to bring a side dish or two, so long as you cleared that with your mom ahead of time. But to pre-cook and bring her whole meal and not eat your mother's food at all is rude. There's something more going on here than she's sharing with you. I wish that she'd bring some side dishes or desserts, but no, she wanted to bring cooked food just for herself. This stuff is highly disrespectful to my family. Homegirl sounds really whiny, toxic, and manipulative. Might want to rethink who you spend the rest of your life with. Just saying. Not today, home, but don't expect that you'll save this relationship. What the heck is your fiancé thinking? She has no dietary restrictions, but feels that she needs to impose her vision on a meal she's invited to? This feels like a power play. This feels like a test to force you to choose her over your family. Nope, right the heck out of that. You passed the test, by the way. She is the one who failed you. She's the selfish one. Like there is some serious Darvo stuff here. Not today, home. This isn't her last meal on Earth, or the only food she'll be able to eat for the rest of her life. This is one meal that someone is generously making to share with loved ones. If you're not a huge fan, you eat a minimal amount and then have a big dessert. Stop at Burger King on the way home. Jam a PB&J in your coat's pocket to eat in the car. Next story. Am I the a-hole for sending my boyfriend's brother home? I, 28 female, work for my parents. Maybe you can see where this is going. We live in a little town in the middle of nowhere. My parents run a little mom-and-pop grocery shop that everyone loves. It is a family-owned store, and I am a manager here. We don't usually have issues. My boyfriend's Ryan, 27 male, little brother, 22 male, recently moved in with him due to disputes between him and his parents. Kane has always been rowdy, so I think his parents just got fed up with his behavior, but I really don't know. Ryan told him he could stay with him, but he needed to get a job because there was no way he could provide for both of them on a salary. Well, none of the places hiring the area wanted Kane. At least he claims he applied and just never got calls back. So, Ryan asked me to swing a job for him here. I didn't like the idea, but we hired Kane on 4 months ago. In that time, I've caught Kane napping at the employee lounge on his break, but an hour longer than allotted. I caught him vaping in the cooler, and multiple times I found him standing around talking to friends about the work he was meant to be doing without actually doing it. The final straw was 4 days ago. Kane clocked in, found me, and asked me what he should do. I told him his job for the day. He said okay and disappeared. 30 minutes later, I saw him nowhere in his area. I went to the employee lounge and saw him sitting at the table eating and on his phone. I asked him what he was doing. He said eating. I asked him if he carted out for break. He rolled his eyes at me and said, "No, I was just grabbing a bite to eat quick." I asked him how long he was back here for, and he said, "I don't know, I just bought it and came back." I told him to let me see his receipt, and sure enough, it was stamped for about 5 minutes after he clocked in. I said, "Kane, we needed you on the floor." He mocked me. "Kane, we need you on the floor." I was really not in the mood for it, so I asked him how badly he needed this job. He said, "Well, if I'm not working, I can stay with Ryan. Duh." I said, "Exactly. Kane, go home. You're not needed today, and don't come in tomorrow." He laughed at me like I was joking until he noticed I wasn't moving, wasn't smiling, wasn't laughing. Then he just said no. And I told him that either he leaves right now or he can continue sitting there without getting paid, because I was done letting him fool around. A few more words exchanged, and then he went home. After my shift, I got a call from my Ryan snapping at me for sending Kane home. I told him I was tired of letting his brother get away with doing whatever just because of who he is. Ryan told me that I was being an a-hole because I know he can't support him and his brother, and that there was no way he could send Kane back home because their parents wouldn't take him. I told him I'm not going to let my parents pay someone for goofing off constantly, and this is where we still are today. Added to clarify some common questions. Ryan was made aware of the things Kane did under my employment, and usually right as they happened, so it's not like he didn't know Kane was on thin ice. Kane was fired, yes. Kane was reprimanded / talked to every time I caught him doing something he shouldn't have been doing. Now for the comments. Not day home. Maybe Kane will have a nice encouraging pep talk with his brother tonight. You absolutely did nothing wrong here. I agree, and would let boyfriend know to stay the hell out of it or he will be supporting a deadbeat brother and he won't have a girlfriend. This is more than a Kane issue. This is also a Ryan issue. Ryan has enabled his brother and constantly taking his side regardless of knowing his brother's penchant for being rowdy. Doesn't even take into consideration how his brother is unprofessional. Opie's trying to run a business, not a daycare. Considering his behavior during work and attitude, I'd say it was fair for you to send him home. Just because he's your boyfriend's brother doesn't mean he doesn't have to work or make you obligated to take care of him. He was lucky that he even got a job at yours in the first place, and he completely blew it. That's on him, not you. I mean, Opie's literally the daughter of the owners. If she's expected to work hard and not slag off, why does Kane think he can expect some special treatment for being the brother of Opie's boyfriend? Kane isn't your problem. At 22, he should start acting like an adult. No one should be taking care of him. Yeah, I even forgot that Kane was 22 when I was reading the rest of the story. Dude sounds like a 14 to 16-year-old. Now for the last story. Would I be the a-hole for eating with my friend rather than my family for Thanksgiving? Every Thanksgiving, my parents usually invite my aunts and uncles and their friends for the dinner. My siblings 16, 10, 13, and I 18 are never allowed to eat with the grown-ups. Would have to stay in our rooms until the grown-ups either leave or go to sleep if they're staying over. Would get the leftovers, and to be honest, it's kind of boring. One of my friends from high school's parents are throwing a Thanksgiving dinner. I told my friend about how Thanksgiving was at my house, so she invited me to eat with her family. At first, I wasn't sure because I didn't want to be rude and intrude, but her mom messaged me last night and basically said I'm more than welcome to come. It's quite last minute and I doubt anything is going to change. One of my aunts are coming in an hour and my mom's already telling us to stay upstairs. Would I be the a-hole for celebrating Thanksgiving with my friend? You get the leftovers? Not an a-hole and your family's a massive red flag. That is so messed up. And they aren't even allowed to leave their rooms until everyone leaves. Not celebrating Thanksgiving would be an improvement for these kids. What? Not an a-hole. In any way, shape, or form. I'm not American, so we obviously don't celebrate Thanksgiving here. But from what I know about Thanksgiving, your family gathers to enjoy each other's company and catch up with family you maybe don't see that often. If your parents effectively tell you you're not allowed to participate at all and have to starve in your room until the grown-ups have eaten and gone to bed, it sounds to me you'd be better off going somewhere you were actually more than welcome. I can see how your parents would be upset with you going somewhere else for Thanksgiving, but to be honest, they brought this on themselves. But if you don't mind me asking, is there any particular reason why the children aren't allowed to join the celebration? I just feel we're missing some background here. And if you don't want to get into it, don't feel compelled to answer. Not gonna lie, the two younger ones are pretty loud, so my mom wants me to watch them. I guess the 13-year-old has to watch as well. That's my guess.
First story is titled, Am I the a-hole for my reaction when my 30-year-old fiancé exchanges gift with my 16-year-old brother? I, female 26, been with my fiancé for 3 years. We both work and we both share rent and other expenses. But my fiancé is currently looking for a new job. He lost his old job 3 months ago. My family lives 30 minutes away, and although it's been difficult this year, I decided to get my brother, who has a chronic condition and struggled a lot lately, and was in the hospital for a few days for anemia. The one thing he's been wanting for some time. I got him an Xbox that cost me $300. He was so happy, and I'm glad I was able to cheer him up during those times. My fiancé received a few gifts from his family, but he wasn't happy with any of them. I got him a perfume, and he liked it. We were visiting my family and we had dinner with them. My fiancé looked at the Xbox I got from my brother and didn't stop talking about it. My parents noticed. I told him to stop complaining about what he got/didn't get this year. That made them uncomfortable, especially since they've been dealing with my brother's health issues and needed to relax. We got home and my fiancé took something from the closet and left for about an hour. I was asleep when he came back. In the morning, I was surprised to find my brother's Xbox in the closet. I woke him up and asked him about it. Turned out, he dropped me off, drove back to my family's house, and exchanged the gift his aunt gave him, a $14 fancy pen, with my brother's Xbox. He said that my brother was happy to exchange gifts. I was so mad. I told him this wasn't for him, and and he basically took something that is not his. Not to mention a pen for an Xbox? That's ridiculous. He told me that maybe I shouldn't have spent $300 while trying to pay for rent. I told him as long as I can pay rent, that's not a problem, and that he needs to find a job if he thinks my money isn't enough. I called my mom, and I found out that they didn't actually exchange gifts. My fiancé pressured my brother into giving him his Xbox. I was livid and so mad. I told him to take the Xbox back to my brother, but he said it was between him and my brother, but I insisted. He refused, so I ended up taking it myself. My fiancé argued when I took it, and said that I was pressuring him and treating him poorly and have no respect for his feelings. I told him he was wrong to make my brother give him his gift and causing him stress and ruining his joy. I apologized to my brother and my parents, and I felt awful because of how my fiancé behaved. My fiancé isn't talking to me, saying that I have no consideration for his feelings and not understanding how he feels not having money to buy himself the things he likes. I'm surprised because he has never done anything like this before. I get that he's struggling with finding a job, but this is not an excuse. Now let's read the top judgment of this post. Not at a-hole. You may want to consider trading in the fiancé though. Doesn't need to be an even trade. Tell him to keep the pen. Cut your losses. Not at a-hole. Fiancé for nothing. Would be trading up at this point. He's a huge a-hole. Info. Why are you with this a-hole? Like, what redeeming qualities does he possess? He's never done anything like this before, and I'm shocked. Ever since he lost his job, he's been behaving strangely. Ever since he lost his job, he's been showing you another part of him. This is still him. When things don't go his way, this is how he behaves. Stress, frustration, and disappointment are no excuse for such behavior. He basically stole, through guilt, your sick little brother's Christmas present. If it was me, he'd be an ex-fiancé. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for not thinking the joke my family played on my girlfriend was a big deal? I, 25 male, have a girlfriend, 23 female, who is absolutely beautiful, but she does have a large facial scar. My family often jokes about it. They have a super dark sense of humor. It bothers my girlfriend, and she says it doesn't feel like a joke. It feels like she's being insulted under the pretense of it being dark humor. Even though I explain it's just how they are and they don't mean any harm, she doesn't really want to be around them. I told her it was really important to me we spend Christmas with my family. We would all quarantine first and test, but it was important to me. She resisted at first, but after some urging from me, she gave in. She said I absolutely could not excuse their behavior if they made a rude comment about her though. We got there and it was fine for a while. Then my mom and sister broke out their matching ugly sweaters that had my girlfriend's face all over it. They both laughed, saying my mom made them screen printed and it was a joke. My dad thought it was hilarious. I even chuckled a little because she's really beautiful. So it was ironic they put her on the ugly sweater. My girlfriend looked at me, and when I said they were just being ironic, she shook her head, got up, and left. Didn't say anything to anyone, just took her car and left. I called her several times, and she didn't answer. The only text I received was, "You need to find your own way home." That pissed me off, and I called her a couple more times. The whole time, my mom is upset because it was just a joke. And she didn't realize my girlfriend was going to overreact like that. I told her that a warning would have been nice, but my sister agreed it was a joke, and my girlfriend was being a baby about it. I had another fight with my girlfriend when I finally got home, and she said I was an a-hole for putting her in that situation, and I said I didn't realize they were going to do that, and they were being ironic because she was beautiful. She said I let them treat her badly, and was trying to make it her fault when it was my family who was acting badly. I said it was just a joke and that she was overreacting. She asked how it was supposed to be a joke. I said that was just their sense of humor. I said I was sorry she was offended by the joke, but she ruined the whole day with her reaction. She said that no, them realizing she wasn't going to take their BS anymore ruined the day. We aren't speaking currently, but when a cousin called to wish me a Merry Christmas and asked how the day went, I mentioned what happened, and he straight up called me an a-hole for doing that to her.
I don't really think I've done anything though. I didn't know they were going to do that. And really, it was just a joke, and I think she's overreacting. Am I really the a-hole here? You're the a-hole. Massive, you're the a-hole. You might think your girlfriend is beautiful, but I guarantee you that when she looks in the mirror, she doesn't see beauty. She sees a defacing scar. And you allow and support your family in making that the identifying feature of how they see her. By allowing your family to treat her that way, she is no longer your beautiful girlfriend. She is that freak with a scar that he brought over. A joke is not a joke if the subject of it is not laughing. You are such an a-hole. I want to really smack you over the head with this fact. Piggybacking on the top comment so people see this, as I also have prominent facial scarring and I haven't seen this point anywhere. It's not just about being ugly. If you tell me I have an ugly nose or an ugly smile, no worries. It's rude, but I can deal with it. But people don't get large facial scars in a vacuum. It's very likely that something awful and traumatic happened to them which caused a scar. The events leading up to my scarring were over 15 years ago, and I can still confidently say it's the worst thing that's happened to me in my life. So not only are you and your family making fun of her for being ugly, they're likely reminding her of a very traumatic event in her past that I'm sure she would like to move on from and not have to think about on what is supposed to be a happy day. This is a really good point, and now I'm even angrier at Opie. I hope she dumps him and his a-hole family. You and your family are the a-holes here, 100%. Also, screen-printed shirts? They really invested money into bullying her, and do you think that's cute or something? You're the a-hole. You are enabling your family to bully your partner. There is nothing that is even remotely okay about this. I'm surprised she hasn't dumped you for letting it go on this long. Now let's read the next story. Am I the a-hole for wanting a full reimbursement on my bridesmaid dress after future sister-in-law replaced me? Our country has no restrictions, and we are allowed to have parties and weddings if we follow some state-imposed rules. My 22 female, brother 23 male, is getting married on January 2021 to Sue, 31 female. She wanted a very uniform aesthetic wedding and only selected her blonde friends and me as her bridesmaids so that everyone would look the same. I still think it's stupid, but since she didn't force or ask any of her friends to dye their hair, not to my knowledge at least, I shut my mouth. Now to the a-hole part. Anne, one of my bestest friends from my friend group, finally came out as gay to her very strict Asian parents, and they kicked her out. She was devastated and was staying with one of my friends. We had a girls' night, got really drunk, and did something stupid. We all shaved our hair, bleached it, and colored it different colors of the rainbow flag to show support. Looked kind of stupid, but she seemed really happy to see her friends supporting her, and at the end of the day, it's just hair. Who cares? The next day when I was sober, I called my sister-in-law and told her what I had done. There was still almost 4 months to the wedding, and if she wanted to replace me, she could have. She said it was alright, and in November, we picked out the bridesmaid dresses, $950 for one. It was expensive, and I had to pay it all for myself. My sister-in-law never commented on my hair whenever we saw each other, and never told me she had a problem. Last week on family dinner, she pulled me aside to tell me I was being replaced. But since I already bought the dress, she wanted me to give the dress to her friend to try it on. If it fits, she will keep it, and if it doesn't, she will try altering it or buy a new one. I was a bit sad, because I had asked her several times before this and she always said it was okay. I told her her friend can keep her dress and I would need a full reimbursement for it. She told me it was not possible, and since she was going to be family, she wanted me to give her the dress for free, so that even if her friend can't fit into my dress, they could try returning it to the store and buying a new one in a different size. I am a college student, and I had to spend a large chunk of my savings to buy that dress. I want full reimbursement. I asked her why she didn't tell me before we went dress shopping, and she told me she didn't want to hurt my feelings and kept her mouth shut. I was mad. I told her I don't want to keep that dress, and I needed a full reimbursement no matter what she does with that dress. She went and cried to my brother and decided with her and they both left. My parents don't want me to start drama. If they want me to keep my mouth shut, I want my parents or my brother to give me that money. which they refuse to do. Now, everyone thinks I'm being petty, and some of my ex-co-bridesmaids messaged me on Instagram calling me a petty, money-hungry witch who does not know the value of family, which is way more valuable than money. Am I the a-hole? Am I being petty? Now I'm confused. Not the a-hole. She's the a-hole for having a damn near $1,000 bridesmaid dress, making you buy it, relaxing you in the bridal party and expecting you to eat the cost. You could have worn a wig. Do not give up that dress for free. She can add that to her wedding expenses if she wants it back. I would show up to her wedding in the dress, as a guest, if I didn't get my money back. Your brother needs to stick up for you and demand repayment. Oh, I love this pettiness. That is a great idea. I would first return it if possible. I wouldn't do another thing for this a-hole OP. You were definitely in the right. Not the a-hole. She didn't tell you because she wanted you to buy the dress to give to someone else. She knew this whole time she wasn't letting you be a bridesmaid. That is exactly what she did. She is a con artist. You should expose her to everyone. Do not give up the dress to her unless she has cash in hand. She's replacing you as bridesmaid because of something unimportant like hair. So she doesn't know the value of family in my opinion. You're not the a-hole. She is. Also, why should you gift a $1,000 dress? That's insane. She acted like $1,000 was not that big of an amount and tried really hard to get me to give that dress for free. $1,000 is a ton of money for me, a college student working part-time. Now, for the last story. Am I the a-hole for not going to my brother's wedding and telling him marrying my ex was horrible? I, 30 female, dated a man named John from freshman year of high school to middle of freshman year of college. I proposed to him and he broke it off, saying he just wasn't right for me. I respected that. I still have feelings for him, but this isn't about that for judgment, just a bit of history. My brother Kyle, 22 male, had been in college for 2 years now and confessed 3 months in their relationship that he met John at a bar and they hit it off. Well, time skipped to last month. They've been together for 2 years and John proposed on Thanksgiving at their house. I found out later in a call. And my brother said yes. My brother asked if I would be maid of honor. I was stunned. This felt like a nightmare and I said no. Hell no. And that I wasn't going to the wedding. It was held yesterday on Christmas Eve, and the only ones there were Mom and Dad, them and John's uncle to officiate the vows. Here's where I'm not sure if I'm the a-hole. They came over to brunch today, and John and my brother were being lovey-dovey, cuddling and talking to my mom and dad about their honeymoon to Taiwan when COVID is over. And I finally asked if they talk about something else and how it's hard on me to hear. When my brother tried to apologize for being affectionate, I told him he should apologize for making me see my ex as a brother-in-law. Mom and Dad, especially John, are claiming I'm being an a-hole while I'm arguing it's my right to be upset. Am I the a-hole? Added info. John is 31 years old. I did express my feelings to my brother when he confessed about their relationship, but he told me I can't just call dibs on a guy. And John and I never had intercourse during our relationship. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. It doesn't matter that he is gay. In my opinion, there are social norms where you don't date your friends' exes and you certainly don't date your family members' exes. You dated for about 4.5 years. It's not like it was a short-term relationship. That is not something that is easy to have thrown in your face every time your family gets together. I bet these people calling you the a-hole wouldn't be saying that if it were your sister who was marrying him. I know that I personally would not feel comfortable being a part of my sister's wedding if she were to marry my ex-girlfriend from 15 years ago. I'm definitely over that relationship, but it just doesn't feel right. Exactly my point. If it was her sister, those would be all not the a-holes. Since when has it become acceptable to date someone who spent 4.5 years with your sibling? I would never do this to my sisters. Softly, softly, you're the a-hole. You weren't his type for slightly more obvious reasons, and people can't control who they love, as you can attest. You've had 2 years to make peace with this, and you really need to, or else it's going to continue to mess up your family. They don't owe you anything. You have no ownership over this man. They deserve to be happy together. Thank you for your judgment. I want to, and I've been trying to, but I dated him for so long and loved him for so long.